So we are live now, just waiting for folks to join. Hey. All right. So as folks are joining, I'd just like to say hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining today for this special episode of SFT Live in celebration of Pride. I'd like to share a special message from SFT's Executive Director, Dorji Seddon. We are grateful as a movement for the LGBTQIA+ community who have contributed so much to our freedom struggle. As we're fighting for our country and looking forward to a free Tibet, we want to build an inclusive and progressive community. This is our vision for Tibet. When we fight for freedom, we're not just fighting for our land, we're fighting for how we're represented in this Tibet. A just and equitable society, free of oppression, in which there is respect for the earth and all living beings. My first Pride was actually back in 2008 with members of the SFT community, marching with Apacha in NYC. And someone who worked at SFT at the time, Carlo Mendoza, who was a part of the LGBTQ community, he arranged for us to be there and to march with Apacha. We all had our t-shirts and everything, and it was such an amazing experience. Just to let everyone know, we have a glossary of LGBTQIA terms. If you click the link in our bio, we will be open to questions from the audience throughout the episode. So on the bottom of your screen, there's a little question mark and you can type in your questions. We will be avoiding invasive questions or maybe pass on questions that the guests might feel uncomfortable about. And with that, I'm going to start bringing on my first guest. I don't think that they're on yet. All right, they're supposed to request me, and I'm gonna request them. Yeah, you can continue.
Hello.
Okay, so we have our first guest joining now.
Thank you. I mean, I wish I could do this Pride live in Tibetan language. However, I was not blessed with the skills of learning many languages and being quite proficient at them. So unfortunately, we will have to stick to English because that's the only language I know how to talk in. So maybe next time.
Thank you. So for
Hi, India.
folks who don't know, this is my sister, and her name is Kunsan Kaldin, and I know that you have been involved with SFT for a long time. You've served on the board, you acted as the regional coordinator back in the day. Tell me more about yourself.
Oh, well. I mean, I was really lucky because I got involved with SFT when I was super young, when I was in high school. And eventually, when I went to college, I started a chapter there and eventually became regional coordinator in New England. And then later on, joined the board of directors. And yeah, so for me, mostly I do a lot of projects related to Tibetan culture and literature and the arts mostly. My background is in theater. I did my master's here in London at Goldsmiths in performance and culture. And I did my dissertation on contemporary Tibetan art and different themes and things to deal with performance and culture within that. So yeah, so anyway, that's kind of my background. But I'm also coordinator for the Tibetans Mixed Heritage Project and also for the Tibet Film Festival in London. Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw a comment, are you Tibetan? So
I hope
can you
so,
explain our
because
backgrounds a little bit?
um, if I'm not Tibetan, my whole existence in life will be, I will have to question many things, especially my parents, about where I came from. But yes, I'm Tibetan. My dad is Tibetan. He's from Tibet, actually. He was born there and left when he was a child. And my mom is Kalmyk, Mongolian, and they met in New York City at a bazaar.
How romantic.
Yes,
You
they're
and I
divorced now, but it's okay.
You and I talk a lot about the role of family and finding support when needed outside of the family. How did you find support when you were establishing your queer identity, whether in the Tibet movement, in college, or with your friends?
Right. Well, as I said, like felt really lucky to sort of grow up within the Tibet movement. And for me, because I got to know so many activists and interesting young people who worked in the Tibet movement, worked on the Tibet issue full time, who were gay and were lesbian, and that having that support, especially from staff and people who were working on the Tibet issue full time, was really interesting to me because I got to, combine my interest and love for doing Tibet work and also like getting to know more about like queer history and go to Pride, like that Pride that we went to in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
And they were really, like my role models, those staff at that time over 10 years ago, and people that I could have long, long conversations with about like people that I liked or, whatever relationship advice or, about this crush I had or whatever it was. And they were there for me, which I really appreciated so much. And at school, I went to a really progressive liberal arts college, Hampshire College, and there within the community, it was very queer positive, and people were super open-minded, from the students to the faculty and staff and the professors that I had and people I worked with over the years. I felt like it was very supportive, and I think that's something that's really important to when you are figuring out all these things about yourself as a young person, having some people who are there for you who can just listen to you and make your feelings, make you feel heard or make you feel
Mm-hmm.
like the things that you feel are important, even though it's different at the time. And, like 10 years ago, I didn't think that there were any like other Tibetan gay people out there in the world. And like, where are they? Are they hiding? Like, can we find them? Like, and then I did start to meet people eventually, and that was really wonderful for me. Um, so, I think that it's important to have that support system, whether it's through your friends or your, adopted family or whatever it is at home or, in your, the place that you end up, later in life.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to pin my comments. Oh, okay, there we go. Thank you so much for sharing. Um, we've talked about how our family dynamics have changed, going from being somewhat fearful of what people think, trying to get their approval and acceptance, to having both of us assume different roles in the family. Can you talk more about that?
Um, yes, I mean, it's very stressful, I think, when you're a young person who is not out and you are not sure how people are going to respond or react, I think, to you just existing in the world. And I think that, or your parents, or what they're going to think, or what they're going to say, or, and it's very stressful and and overwhelming. And I think it's a very difficult burden to carry, if you have that happening for you. And I think that gradually over time, for me, I was able to kind of move past that and not care anymore. And now that I'm not that young or worried about what people are thinking, I just don't care. So we've moved on. I don't care. And it is not important to me. And also, I mean, not just with being queer, being gay, like, I chose very different paths from other people that I know. And I feel like it's important to stress that it's very fine. It's very okay to be different or to choose a different
Mm-hmm.
path or to do something that not everybody else is doing at the time. Even though that might feel like very uncertain because you don't know what it looks like. I didn't have that many other Tibetan gay role models to look up to and say like, oh, here's the way to do it. Here's how this happens. There was nothing. Like, there's nothing, right? You just have to, it's a shot in the dark. And then you just have a handful of people who can kind of give you advice. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just about caring, I mean, not caring what people think and to just have confidence and trust your instincts, and find your community because they are the people who are going to be there and be that foundation for you when things get difficult or when there are challenges that will inevitably come up.
Mm-hmm. So we are at the 10-minute mark right now. So I'm just gonna ask a few more questions, and then we're also open to questions from the audience. So please feel free to ask some questions, and we'll select a few. As someone who has been in a long distance relationship for many years, could you give some advice to folks out there who may be struggling?
Hopefully, at least one of you is employed because that is very expensive, first of all. Second of all, I think having goals between the two of you is really important, whether it's just something that you are deciding along the way of like if it's serious or what you're going to do. I think having very clear goals from the beginning or checking in with each other from time to time is super important. And hopefully someone has amassed like a lot of airline miles or something because it can become challenging. But
Mm-hmm.
if it works out, that's great.
How important was it for you to be with someone who understood the movement, and how hard was it for you to find a queer Tibetan partner?
Well, I didn't just put an ad out in the paper because that's not how it works. Um, but I think it was important for me to first have people that I was dating or seeing over the years who didn't know anything. And as a young person, I had to go through that experience of explaining to them like why this is important to me and them kind of getting that, and understanding that it's important to me, but not really understanding about what the movement was about or about history or culture or all these different things. And I think that I needed to have that experience first before I finally ended up with someone who gets it 100% and has all of these different abilities in terms of language and understands history and is engaged and does their own thing. And that I think will help me to also evolve as a person and think about what projects I wanted to work on. And to me, that's something that is invaluable because now when we do programs together, it's something that I think is a very unique combination of two Tibetans who are passionate about the arts or literature or like whatever it is. And we work together all the time and we do lots of projects together. And for me, I know that that works and that's something that I find incredibly valuable. I'm not saying that everybody has to only find a Tibetan partner because they might not find those things in that person. Fortunately for myself, I did. So I'm I'm happy with that. And I'm really proud of the work that we get to do together,
Mm-hmm.
and that we can hit the ground running and to, have a really strong foundation of the things that we want to do. Hopefully, all of the rest of you will be just as lucky. Again, hopefully one of you will have a really good job because it is very difficult going back and forth and figuring out other things. And then there will be lots of other challenges that you'll have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, if you have that foundation, then it's something, and you have a good sense of humor, I feel like that's also very important. Um,
Mm-hmm.
then, you know, that's something that I think works well.
Mm-hmm. Um, how important, hold on. Did you feel seen growing up as a queer Tibetan in terms of representation in the media, and how did that affect you?
I mean, number one, if you're thinking about Asian people in the media to begin with and the history of all of that, which is a whole other SFT Live, there's not going to be a whole large amount other than stereotypes mostly, right? So if you're going from that to then asking for not just a Asian American or, you know, whatever representation who is also gay, you're not going to find very much. And I don't think it was until I was like in my mid 20s where I started to see films like Saving Face by Alice Wu, who is a Chinese American director, you know, who made this fantastic film, which was very um, lovely and funny, and it's a comedy, and you know, it's about these two women who fall in love and all of that. And even though it's not
Mm-hmm.
my experience, but it is an experience which is not similar to mine, but something that I can see vaguely in that. And I think then there's, you know, and you're looking at the history of also queer representation in TV and film, which has come so far, like in the past 10 years. And there's so many, you know, shows. When you started off watching TV programs about queer life, you would have Queer as Folk, The L Word, you know, Noah's Ark, like things that were 10, 15 years ago, which kind of started, you know, having these narratives around queer folks. And now I think that there's a lot more that we can choose from, and the more representation that we have and the more stories that we have that reflect different experiences, the better. So to answer your question, long story short, I don't think that I see it in that way, um, or I saw myself in that way. But I feel like now there's so many new programs which are very exciting and fun, and things that I might not necessarily see myself in, but you know, you have examples of storytelling, for example, in TV programs like my favorite, Schitt's Creek, which has a narrative where, you know, there are queer characters in a town where, um, you know, prejudice and hate don't really exist and everyone's sort of accepting. There are like some moments in the show where there is tension or maybe a would-be hostility moment where you know, one of the main characters has a boyfriend and the boyfriend doesn't know that they're together, and then they find out, and it's like, you know, it's really interesting to me to have these situations because there's always so many films that end in tragedy, like someone's dead or like they commit
Mm-hmm.
suicide or something tragic, and I just want to see something that is the opposite of that, or something that is looking beyond, you know, what people think is possible. So yeah, so anyway, I think that that's a really great example of what could be possible.
Mm-hmm. I think we have time for one last question. Um, yeah, so actually, as I'm looking at these questions, there are a lot of questions about you coming out. One about coming out to me as your sister, did it change our relationship? And one about coming out to your Tibetan parents specifically and how to encourage others to kind of come out. Do you want to talk about that, or do you want to? I actually had another question that was about advice for young LGBTQIA Tibetans who are navigating their life in like the Tibet movement, who may not feel accepted. So I'm giving you the option to pick which question you like.
Okay. I don't know. I mean, I can think about just between the two of us, like I don't know if I ever even really came out to you in that kind of sense because it was more of bringing you into the environment of coming to visit me at college or meeting my friends or our friends from home, you know, who were gay, and
Mm-hmm.
then and just you being around that and us never
Yeah.
really having to have that conversation because we were always having those conversations throughout the whole time, like always talking about different ways of identification, or, you know, non-gender conforming ways to identify, or, you know, like people that you're interested in, and not really have to have such a cut and dry black and white conversation of this is what gay is, this is what being
Mm-hmm.
bisexual is, this is what being transgendered is. It was, I feel like it was way more nuanced, and over the course of many, many years, from probably when you were in high school until you were in college.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't, and then also you meeting people, you know, over time that either I was seeing, or, you know, whatever it is, and you were always a part of that. So I don't feel like it was such a big to do, you know, in terms of sitting down and having that discussion.
Yeah.
Um,
Actually, when I think about it, I was in middle school when you were in when you were in college,
mhm.
because of our age difference. But yeah, I was in middle school at the time, and I think that as you're talking about this, I definitely feel the same way. It was more, it was not really like a big moment. It was more like learning about your life and like who, you know, who are your friends, or like just kind of learning about your life as a whole. I think that that was the moment for us, just learning about each other and like, you know, the kind of people that you're friends with and your experiences. And I also got to know like all of your friends. That's why I think we have a lot of mutual friends too, because you introduced me to them from a very like young age. And I also had memories with them, and like they would also, you know, have my back if you were making fun of me or something, you know, like we had a really good relationship, I think, that way. So I think it was just a natural progression.
Mhm.
Yeah. So thank you so much. We're actually out of time for your live, but I think folks really enjoyed having you here today. And I think that it was really great experience from my end to have you as a guest, as my sister, and to have you share more of your journey.
Thank you. And I think that my last piece of advice is that for people to just really try to focus on being the best person that you can be, and then being your highest self, or whatever you feel like is your own truth, is important to make time for. It's important to make time and make space for yourself and how you want to exist in the world, and find the support where you need it, and also ask folks for help if you need that too. And, you know, and later on in life, when you get to think about more of how to be Tibetan and how to be gay, or how to this or that, and it's all about intersectionality, which is really important, which hopefully the other guests are going to discuss. And yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. All right. So now we are going to be joined by Mingyur. Let me just find their. Yeah, Alonjik, you can start playing the music. Okay. So as Mingyur is joining, or I'm waiting for Mingyur, I'm going to actually share. Oh, hey Mingyur. How's it going? I'm just going to quickly share this message from SFT's executive director, Doji Seden, for those who may have missed it. We are grateful as a movement for the LGBTQIA plus community who have contributed so much to our freedom struggle. As we're fighting for our country and looking forward to a free Tibet, we want to build an inclusive and progressive community. This is our vision for Tibet. When we fight for freedom, we're not just fighting for land, we're fighting for how we're represented in this Tibet. A just and equitable society, free of oppression, in which there is respect for the earth and all living beings. And I just wanted to remind folks that if you look in the link in our bio, we actually have a glossary of LGBTQIA terms that may be helpful for you to learn something new and to kind of glance at throughout the episode. We are open to questions from the audience, and towards the bottom of your screen, there's a little question mark. and you can type in your questions in there. Just note that we will be avoiding invasive questions or maybe pass on ones that the guests might feel uncomfortable with. So, Mingyur, I'm so excited to have you here today. Thank you for joining. Can you tell me about yourself?
Oh yeah, sure. So first thing I wanted to say is I have a little bit of a hard time to speak sometimes, so people might not be used to that. So you might hear me pause somewhat here and there. I mean, I won't be speaking in Pigit. If there's time, I can explain why. But yeah, so I live in California, and yeah, I think there's just really only like one thing that I felt like I wanted to share that might not be like part of our life. That I just wanted to share that yeah, I'm glad to be here, and that besides what will be talked about today, I just wanted to disclose that I am I have the word is EXPERIENCED. That word would be so when I spell a word, if you could repeat it to me, that's helpful.
Okay. Oh, I'm
Oh
so
yeah.
sorry. I just had trouble pinning something on there.
Oh, no worries, no worries. So you know what?
Okay.
I'm gonna type it in here, and then you can just re repeat that word, please.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. Do you see it?
Experienced.
Yeah, yeah. So I just wanted to say that uh the experience of sexual assaults within our community. And I just yeah, that was a thing that I just feel like is important to share, and that I hope is that there's someone viewing this who has experienced this as well, that you know that you are not alone, and that I hope you feel GOOD, like, can you so
Good.
good, yes. And that I hope you have experienced and received support uh, within our community, and that just that you bring a lot of great things to all the people around you, and that I hope we can all as Peva heal and reach the point where we can be truthful and have courage. And that if there's somebody who has more questions for me, whether it's this topic or some topic that we talk about here and we don't have time, you can feel free to like come to me like through the DM and just ask me. So that's all. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mingyur, for saying that. And I think that that is having that kind of connection is so important to people. Um, Going kind of back to the questions, and feel free to also share whatever you'd like to share during our time here. You mentioned that you had to come out twice, once as a lesbian at age 16, then as transgender at age 25. Could you describe your self-acceptance journey and what role your parents played in that?
Oh yeah, sure, of course. Definitely. So I wrote down my answers just to stay on track here for time. So I felt who I was at a very young age. I mean, she not like age 4 or around that time. So and then but at that time I had just come to the U.S. and I think I already knew that there was no Prabha kids around me at all for like little kids. So I was already unique in these different ways. And just because of the way that the American like culture and the world was around me, I knew, even though I knew who I was, I knew it's like, oh, you can't share who you are here. Like, so I was quiet for some time. What's nice is that when I came out around age 16. Both my parents were very, very supportive. I would say the reaction was very true to them. The general policy was that they were like, okay, you're gay, but things don't change. Like, you need to complete your school, and you can't like see people until you're like lo nishu zenga, so 25. So they were like, the policy doesn't change. Like, so anyway, that and then, but what's nice is even that rule changed, because I remember when I was in college, my so this word, I'm going to type it, and if you can say it,
Sure.
this person.
Amala.
Amala, yeah, she. I remember she like called me to tell me, like, it totally surprised me, right? She called me to tell me like how important it was for me to pursue my own like feeling of contentment and happiness. And then particularly, it really like surprised me. She said, don't let anyone Pyoba in our community tell you that you are not Pyoba, or you are not as Pyoba because of your gender or who you are attracted to. So yeah, so that was a big surprise, and really like a great, I think that had a big so must have some kind of change in my mind, you know, like to have that kind of support. And yeah, I would say on that topic, I can't really describe, like, I think my parents' support has changed me for sure. And I would kind of compare it to I don't know if everyone has seen this movie, but I'm gonna type it in here, and it is a Hindi movie. That one. And there's that scene in the, I think in the beginning, right? Rahul is like he like tells his younger Brother, younger
Brother. Yeah.
yeah, he says like, if you are if you meet a hardship or a challenge, and you aren't sure if you can like if you can kind of go through it, he said, think of your parents, right? And so I would say that when you have a parent's support, it gives you a protection that nothing, I think, in the world can like pierce that, you know. So and I want to say one thing for parents who might be like dwelling on this topic and trying to like see in themselves whether they will approve of their child or not. I would just say this one thing: if you give your protection and support to your child for who they are, with whether it's with their gender or who they are attracted to, I would say your child will improve in all parts of their life, you know. And it's kind of like a flower, and you know, when it receives like Yima and Chu, like it just will like it will like flourish completely, you know. So that's one thing. And then in the conclusion to the last part of what you said is that in terms of advice for coming out, I really encourage you to reach out to Tibetan Equality Project if you feel comfortable, because it has safe private places for you to talk. If you want to, of course, you can DM me as well. And I'm careful to give like advice here, because I know there's many different Pyoba who view this, and not necessarily everyone is part of that community. And I don't want people to by mistake pass on what I say maybe to a friend or something and say, oh, you should do it this way, right? Coming out is a very personal and very hard. So my advice that I'm going to give here, the small one, is very gentle, and you shouldn't take it if it feels not right to you, right? All I'll say is I would encourage perhaps to try and describe your experience, right? Rather than rely heavily on many different terms that your parents don't understand, and it might confuse them or might cloud them, right? And then they might have trouble like hearing you. And then I think the only reason I say this is because I think a label can be, especially a foreign label, can be like rejected, right? But when you say I experience this, I feel this, it's a little harder to like throw away, you know. And then I just wanted to conclude this response by saying, for those Peba, you are definitely not alone, although I can understand that you may feel that way. And that if your parents think that there are no like gay Tibetans or trans Tibetans or LGBTQ Peba, we all know they are mistaken. And they will learn pretty soon that this is not true, you know? And so, yeah, please stay tuned with TEP, Tibetan Equality Project. There are some great posts coming up that I think will be very helpful to our community.
Thank you. I wanted to talk a bit, because I know that we spoke briefly on this, about straight or cis allies and how we can be allies to trans Tibetans. You've spoken about how it's not helpful for straight Tibetan allies to make broader statements like Tibetans are homophobic or transphobic. How should allies approach family and friends who might hold views contrary to gay and trans liberation?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so I think change is like approached ideally with a question versus like a statement, which is why I was saying if you make a statement like Tibetans are blank, then you're making a, whether your intentions are positive or not, you're making a stereotype, right, for our whole community. Regarding your question, in my opinion, there are different arenas in which people can be helpful. Some of these arenas include language, the way we perceive our culture, our che, our idea of what it means to be human, right? A human. What is the word? Human. Nature. There we go. And excuse me, human nature, and then two more arenas include community ties and institutions. I'm gonna write and share some share some ideas about these topics like to greater like in like a deeper way on an IG page called I'll just type it here, and that'll come out this week. And then I will give a brief example or idea now, which is that for now I would just say if you want to be helpful, reflect on the Tibetan community around you if you have one, and think of who is in my opinion, in the parents category of like their lo, right? So lo, and then you're like maybe not really young, but I mean that could work. But lo shibju shibju like on up, and think about who in the community might be most supportive to talking about this with you, kind of more like privately, right? So that you guys can exchange ideas and thinking, right? Because it's not one person with one idea who's going to all of a sudden be like, news alert, I have something to tell you guys, you know, like that. And then also I think if there are teachers in our community, whether those teachers are spiritual or whether they are teachers who like teach like Tibetan history or who knows what, think if there are these teachers and the community has some like close ties with them, I would say think about politely and skillfully engaging with them on this topic. And I would say particularly for our community, I don't think that this should be engaged with like it's a war over who's right, you know. I think, or like the point would not be to show that somebody's right or that someone's views are wrong. I think if you really want to help this community like of like Peba, is that then your behavior should be should go with the desire to shift people towards learning, right? So when you think you want to shift people towards learning, it becomes a very different exchange, right? And then I'll conclude by saying if those people aren't flexible in that moment, I would just say move on, right? There'll always be like a new chance and a new place, like a new person, like a new, you know, new exchange. And I think a good change happens through a combination of when you reflect and when you just allow things to kind of like occur without trying to like hold it too hard, you know? So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think we have time for one or two quick questions. So I just wanted to remind folks that at the bottom of your screen, there's a question mark where you can send some questions. One that I had already kind of prepared is that you've written extensively about Tibet and social justice. I've read some of your works, and has your journey as a Tibetan person affected the way that you fight for freedom in Tibet?
Yes, for sure. I will say so. My road to my PhD began in 2000. This number, right?
Mm-hmm.
8. And so, of course, it was the protests that really went inside here, and it like changed me a lot. And then at the same time, in that same year, I happened to be looking online. I was putting in the words queer Tibet and gay Tibet, and I remember I saw some very curious things on this, on like within Tibet and within China, and that's when I started to realize that that this whole kind of topic is like this terrain being LGBTQ plus experience and the movement for just the movement, and that this is a terrain that powerful groups are very happy to manipulate just to serve their own to serve their own ideas, right? And so I can't go more deeper than that here, but I'll conclude that part by saying, like, I'll just say that I'm aware that when we as Prabha, if and when we ignore our this word, if you could say that word,
Diversity.
right? If and when we ignore that, the outside world is only too happy to claim the people who we reject and absorb them, right? And then when that happens, we lose our I'm going to use this kind of like example, even though I'm not really like a plant, like I don't do like plants and things, but can you say that word? We lose our
Nutrients.
Yeah. And then to these worlds, whether it's China we're losing it to, or whether it's like some world out here, right? And then or if we like we will have, or maybe we don't lose them, maybe they stay with us, but they are like inside the home and they're in pain, right? And then they can't grow. So yeah, and I would just the last thing I'll just say is just actually I'll conclude there. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, thank you so much. I think that we might need to end here because I just don't want to have the Instagram timeout when Youngchun is joining. But thank you so much, Mingyur. It was so amazing having you join today, and
Thank
also
you.
to get to know you better in the process. So I really enjoyed talking with you. Thank you so much, and have a great day.
You too. Okay, bye.
Okay, so let me figure out now. Oh my God, how do I do this? Okay, so someone else requested to go live with me. This is not Young Chen. I'm trying to remember their name. I think they're going to go live from Tibetan Equality Project, so I'm just going to request them. Wongju, can you cue the music?
Hello.
Hi. I love your intro music.
Did you guys hear it?
Yeah. Oh, they can't hear it? Can you hear the intro music?
Everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. Only the Avatar, master of all 4 elements, could stop.
Yeah, exactly,
Nice.
Momotomo. It's Avatar.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much for joining us today. Can you tell me about yourself? I know that in our preliminary conversations, you've said that you identify as non-binary. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Or can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, first of all, for some background, I'm a community coordinator of Tibetan Equality Project. I work alongside another queer Tibetan person on this account. It's a collaborative project, and so we're always looking for more collaborators. I'm 18, my sun sign is a Scorpio, and I exclusively use they, them pronouns. And now on to the second part of your question. To be non-binary is to be trans. The definition of transgender is when your gender identity doesn't match what you're assigned at birth. I was assigned female at birth, and there's so many things associated with gender, with being female, that I felt stifled by. So there's some non-binary people like Chellaman who use he, him, his pronouns. Other people use she, her, hers. They're fine with that. Other people use pronouns like z or zer, which I'm still unfamiliar with, which goes to show that non-binary people are not encyclopedias for LGBTQ plus identities. We're all learning. Some non-binary people present super femme, some look super masc, and some may look androgynous, kind of like me, but we're all valid.
Thank you so much. We're so excited to have you join today. Do you think that your experience and journey as a non-binary Tibetan differs from other queer Tibetans, and how so?
I do think it differs. So I'm based in New York City, in the United States. I have not seen any other non-binary Tibetans until the past year, when I was exposed when I went to a Machik event and then met the founder of Tibetan Equality Project. And it's there that I met, like, for the first time, other non-binary Tibetan people. Um, I think gay Tibetans are like most visible in our community, like in parties and so on. And lesbian Tibetans are most visible in activism. So that's just my opinion. I have a small sample size to base off of, so don't quote me on that. But one of the experiences that I have not really seen in other queer Tibetans, mainly with the gay and the lesbian Tibetans, is gendered names. So my full name is Yanche Ha Mo. The Mo is a female suffix. It's a dead giveaway. As well as Yanche. In a recent meetup with other queer Tibetans, I was, even though I had my pronouns right next to my name, someone referred to me with she, her pronouns. Why is that? Might be because of my face, but it might also be because of my name, Yanche. I plan on taking hormones, and I plan on doing surgery in the future, and I worry about what I'll be confronted with when I go to, say, India, where Tibetans know that Yanchil Hamo is a feminine name. So yeah. Oh, and then I'd like to add something that changed my perspective on my name. I was even considering legally changing my name, especially Hamo, because of the female suffix, until I changed my perspective on my name. Like, I searched up Yanjil Hamo, like in a Tibetan to English dictionary, and then one of the translations was of a Hindu goddess of learning and wisdom, and I was like, wow, that's super cool. And so I treated this goddess like a guardian for me, and so that really helped me in coming to terms with my names.
Well, that's so beautiful. Could you also share, I know that we touched briefly on this, what is a gender neutral pronoun in Tibetan for they, them?
Yes, so I'm a diasporic Tibetan. I was born in India and then came here to New York City when I was 6. My memories start from New York City onwards. I've lost my mother tongue. And so I barely speak Tibetan, and I only understand a certain dialect of it. I didn't even think about gender neutral pronouns in Tibetan until I met another non-binary Tibetan in Australia, Northern. They're freaking awesome. Anyways, they shared that they use Kong, which is a polite gender neutral pronoun in Tibetan. And so that's what I go by in Piba, although I've yet to hear someone actually use it in real life.
What kind of support would you like to see from elder generations of Tibetans? And could you share a little bit about experiences in your own family?
Yes, so Minger has touched upon this, but if you're a parent, please be supportive and accepting of your children. It's going to go a long way in making them feel safe and comfortable in their own family, in their own homes. What was I going to say? Could you repeat the question?
Sure. What kind of support would you like to see from elder generations of Tibetans? And could you share a little bit about your experiences in your own family?
Yeah, so just to Tibetans all over the world, please start thinking about what gender actually means. Please be critical of gender and sex. Gender is a social construct. And I think once you start thinking critically of gender, then you start actually comprehending non-binary identities. And who knows, you might even come out as non-binary yourself. But regarding my family, I did not grow up in the healthiest of environments. I'm currently living away from my parents. And remember, I'm freaking 18.
Yeah.
Some advice I like to impart: it's normal to make mistakes, especially when you grow up in a whack environment. Parents are people, and they can be very shitty people. Screw filial piety. You don't have to forgive people who cause a lot of trauma in your life. And please do forgive yourself. That's something I recently learned from a friend. That is self-care. I came out many times to my parents and was forced back in. It's part of the reason why I had to go away from my parents, but yeah. Also, please build a support network. My siblings are amazing. They're so supportive. My younger sister had a lot of trouble transitioning from she, her pronouns to they, them pronouns. And even when I had, long talks with her, she'd still be until I told her, like, you got to start, like, practicing it yourself. Like, do the labor in your head. Say it out loud when you're alone or whatever, if it helps you. And now she corrects other people. It's amazing, her progress. She's a lot better at using they, them pronouns than my other siblings, than my queer sibling. But yeah, I really love my siblings, so.
I just wanted to remind folks that you can ask questions also. So at the bottom of your screen, there's a little question box and you can insert your questions. I just wanted to ask, can you tell me about your experience at school with your peers, whether in like high school or in college?
Yes, so I've never been to Tibetan school, so I can't speak on that. And regarding my college campus, half of my college campus is probably queer, and I usually surround myself with queer people of color, so I see my college as a safe space. Super supportive, and it's during my first year of college where I realized that I did not have to gatekeep being trans. And I cracked my egg, which is a phrase in the trans community, when you're not in denial and when you accept or embrace being trans. And my high school, I went to a specialized high school, which is basically a school with a bunch of resources in New York City. It was mainly Asian and some white folks with money. And homophobia was very rampant. It was very subtle. I'm realizing a lot of transphobia and not respecting like the few non-binary people that were out. I remember not respecting their pronouns. And I even dead named someone without realizing it. I was like, what's their name? What's their name? I can't remember their name for some reason. And in retrospect, I remembered it's because they changed their name. I had a great mentor in high school, Simon. I was the leader of my Gender Sexuality Alliance Club. And during like an alumni day, he came by because he saw our GSA sign. And then he started telling me about all the trauma, all the crazy things he had to go through. He was like in the early 2000s where he would get like rape threats in the bus, in the bathroom, in the locker room. And he was telling me all this, and it's just crazy because I'm in the same school that he is now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't sorry about that, but yeah, he was a great mentor. He wanted to do as much as he can for the GSA of our school. And I'm still in touch with him. I still talk with him. And he reminds me a lot of a gay relative of mine who is super supportive of me. So yeah, he's like my first out mentor with explicitly queer issues.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you so much for sharing. And I think it's really beautiful to understand how important a mentor is, or someone who especially had previously gone to your school. That's so powerful. And thank you for sharing that. I'm just gonna open up these questions. Do you think most people in your generation are supportive of non-binary people?
I do not think that. I had a belief in my head that, oh, the younger generation is more open-minded and all that. And while that may be true to an extent, as I surround myself with other progressive and leftist Tibetans, there are still, for instance, a bunch of Tibetan boys who use the N-word, who say no homo. And we grew up among conservative Tibetans, because what Meager said before about labeled Tibetans as conservative and such, but most of us grew up in a community that was that almost always avoided the topic of LGBTQ people. I feel like it's only very that Mariko became famous, became big, and me being a non-binary Tibetan in New York City, one of the biggest hubs of Tibetan people in the United States, I have yet to see a non-binary Tibetan until the past year.
Mm-hmm.
There's still who are very edgy who say there are only two genders. I mean,
yeah,
like really, you like respect other people's pronouns. A true ally unless you think about and you criticize it and so on. And for people to do that hard work, for people to do that thinking, I'm not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We have about 3 minutes left, and just to kind of give you a warning, Instagram will kind of just shut off at the 1 hour mark.
Okay.
But is there anything else that you would like to share in your kind of closing conclusion?
Yes. It's a reiteration of what I've said before, but don't gatekeep being trans. You don't need to like hate the body parts that you were born with. You don't need to tolerate the gender you were assigned at birth. I think if a lot more people were like thought critically, then a lot more, and society itself, especially Tibetan society, was more actually supportive people, then I think a lot more people would be out. A lot more people would realize that a lot more people would crack their egg. But yeah, I hope I went on this panel, on this live, because I was, like 18. I'm a young Tibetan, and I hope to see other young queer Tibetans like them. I hope you guys will get a safe space. We'll find a safe space. Yeah, hit up Tibetan Equality Project. Follow us.
Oh, thank you so much. I think folks will definitely be joining Tibetan Equality Project
with other queer
and see in the comments that
Tibetans, and hopefully build
that
a supportive community, a support network.
Great. I think that we're breaking up a little bit, but we're actually at the 1 minute mark.
All right.
So thank you so much for joining again, and we really appreciate you coming on today as a guest.
All right. Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Dustin.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye.